I've had days before where in the morning or the beginning of the day, I have really high hopes for what I'm going to do. I hope like I'm going to accomplish a lot of things. But by the end, I feel like I've just wasted so much time, maybe on social media, maybe I've just been binging YouTube. And it just feels like I can't stop wasting time and falling into laziness. There's a good chance you relate to this. And honestly, a lot of young Muslims, people my age or your age, maybe 16, 17, 18, who, this time is super important to actually get work done. This is one of the most critical moments in your life, and you need to be productive. But a lot of us just can't seem to get the work done. Now, I learned that you can't have a magical 180-degree turn in your life. So you're not going to wake up one day and then be, super productive and never be lazy again. That's not how it's going to work. Instead, you're going to have to slowly cut away on your laziness and build up productive habits. And that's actually how I sort of solve laziness in my life. Right now, I'm not perfect, of course, and I still fall into, binging or whatever, but I feel like I get 10 times more work done as I did in the past. And the way I did this is through employing the Islamic methods of destroying laziness. And inshallah, I'll teach you these in this video, and hopefully you guys can get benefit. The first thing you need to understand is why are you lazy, and specifically why you don't have motivation to do things. Now, the fundamental reason is because your stimulus tolerance is off. Now, this might sound kind of complex, but it's actually really simple. What I mean by stimulus tolerance is pretty much your baseline level of stimulus that you have throughout the day. So you probably heard of dopamine, and you might have watched videos on dopamine, but you could think of stimulus and dopamine as the same thing. So, for example, if you're stimulating yourself throughout the day and you're kind of hyper-stimulated through things like watching TikToks, watching YouTube videos, binging, and stuff like that, then your baseline level of stimulus is going to be high, right? Because you're constantly stimulating yourself. But if you're not doing that, if you're not constantly watching videos, instead you put most of your time to work in productive things that are not really ultra stimulating, right? Like maybe video games are ultra stimulating, but doing your work isn't. So for me and probably you, our stimulus tolerance is way off. Our baseline is way too high because we're used to TikTok, YouTube, all these social media platforms and all this short-term dopamine. What that does is it rewires our brain to expect to have that level of stimulus. That's why it's our baseline, right? Now, I want you to compare that with a billionaire. And I just use the example of a billionaire because these people are productive, right? They could work 12, 14, 16-hour days. But you could, put this in any level or any realm of success. Billionaire or any successful person can focus for that long because their level of stimulus is a lot lower than ours. They're not on TikTok. They're not on YouTube binging or whatever. They're instead focusing their time on work. And when you do that for a long amount of time, you're going to be rewired. You're going to rewire your brain into having that lower baseline level of stimulus. And the result of that is they're actually going to enjoy work. They're going to be stimulated by work because to them, it's kind of a novel stimulus because they're so used to like a lower level of stimulus compared to us when we're so used to a high level of stimulus. We're used to TikTok. We're used to short form content. So when we sit down and do work, we're not going to be receptive to it, right? It's not going to be stimulating for us. So we're going to find it boring and we're going to really not want to do it. And that's why you probably have a really strong urge to just watch content or, do whatever else instead of doing your work. So the most important thing when you don't have motivation or you feel like you don't have motivation to do work is because your stimulus tolerance is off. So that means you need to take a break from social media, from dopamine in general, right? Because that's the thing that is increasing your stimulus tolerance. And when you realize, it's going to be difficult when you first try and break free from it. But after a week or maybe a little more than that, you're going to realize it's pretty easy afterwards. And so all you need is momentum. Just get through that hard period of maybe a week or a little bit more of, really having the urge to go on content, whatever. Just don't give in. And afterwards, it's actually going to be easy to stay focused on your goals. And another tip I'll give you is start your day off with low stimulus. So like, for example, a lot of people start the day off checking their phones. And that's the worst thing you can do because you're already, as soon as you wake up, stimulating your mind. And what that means is you're going to be expecting a higher level of stimulus throughout the whole day because it's hard to go from low stimulus to high stimulus and then back to low stimulus. You're going to want to go from high stimulus to even high. So start your day off with work. That's one of the best tips I can give you. And then as the day ends, you're allowed to relax, watch your YouTube videos or whatever else at the end of the day after you completed your work. But don't start your day off with it. One of the best things I did to solve my laziness is incorporate some very important du'as. And these, in my opinion, are the easiest things you could do and the most effective things you could do. Just because all you have to do is memorize them once and you have them for the rest of your life. So there's two du'as mainly. So there's one du'a that I like to say a lot, which is Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal-hazan, wa a'udhu bika min al-ajzi wal-kasal, wa a'udhu bika min al-jubni wal-bukhal, وأعوذ بك من ضلع الدين وغلبة الرجال. And I'll leave this dua on the screen for you to memorize. But if you say this every morning and evening, I guarantee you, inshallah, that your life is going to be a lot more productive and you'll see that you just start doing more things. And on top of that, one of the best dhikrs you could do, which I recommend, you just keep saying it constantly. And this is something that I'm trying to get into the habit of because I just recently learned this, where it's La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, right? You probably heard this. You probably heard a lot of people saying this. But the truth is, a lot of people are saying it wrong, actually. See, what this translates to is pretty much there's no power or strength except Allah. But what this is referring to is basically you're not able to do anything without the will of Allah. Which is why, for example, in the adhan, right? When they say, Hayya ala salah, meaning come to salah, you say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, right? You repeat that, which basically means someone's asking you to come to salah and you're saying that I have no power to do it except by Allah. So when you're feeling lazy, you have to understand that you have no power to do anything except if it's by Allah's will. And that's why this dhikr is so powerful, right? It's basically acknowledging that you have no power and you're asking Allah to give you that power to help you, allow you to actually do things and be productive. So I would recommend spam this dua and also spam this dhikr. And this is something I'm trying to do, incorporate into my life. And I feel like it's something that could really, really change lives. Now, in terms of something very, very practical and something that is, in my opinion, the best productivity technique ever, is to start your day after Fajr, and specifically start your work right after Fajr. So basically, do the hardest task in your whole schedule, right after Fajr, as soon after as you wake up. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that this is the most fruitful time. This time has the most barakah. And if you do your work in this time, you'll achieve so much progress, it'll be crazy. Now, of course, it's difficult to wake up after Fajr. So this is something that you're going to have to need a lot of discipline for. But of course, do things like sleep earlier and just, have that discipline. But that's all I have for this video. Remember, don't stop making dua. I hope Allah makes your laziness problem easier. Assalamu alaikum.